Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Failure Friday, where we talk to friends, family, clients, and sometimes really dope strangers about how failure has shaped them professionally, personally, how it's made them a better version of themselves. And we come here to learn from those experiences because social media is all about small waists, fat butts, pretty smiles, and editing. I'm guilty of it too. But the value comes from the real, relatable human experience. And that is exactly what the brand that you have started is all about. I feel it when I go on your page. So we have Sabrina Zohar and her mother, Helen. Helen is your last name also, Zohar?
Yes.
She's a special guest. She was, Sabrina was like, oh, I'm going to talk about my mom. And I was like, oh, is she there? And she was like, yeah. So now her mom, as of 2 minutes ago, is on this podcast as well. So Sabrina is the founder of Softwear, which is super soft clothes, produced sustainably and ethically, and 100% made here in America. She's also a dog mom. I found that from stalking her social media. Oh gosh, why'd you make that face?
He passed away a couple weeks ago.
Shit!
I know. I should have prefaced.
We are just on a fucking roll, aren't we?
I was a dog mom, though, for 10 years.
You're still a dog mom.
Yeah. He's with me forever. I just don't physically have the body. It's true.
Oh my God. I cannot believe. I was complaining about back pain when I first got on, and she was like, oh my God, I know. I had scoliosis. And I was like, Weston, my tech guy's here. Weston, I looked at her social media because she only told me, like, just say I'm the founder of Softwear. So I looked at her social media. I was like, there's more about her than just this business. She has a bunch of pictures of her dog. So I call her dog mom, and her dog passed away 2 weeks ago. Oh. Fuck. I have to edit that part out. Hey everyone, welcome back. But I do love your page, both your personal and professional. It feels like home. It feels authentic, relatable. You don't get that a lot with clothing brands. I'm a huge fan of athleisure. So I can't wait to actually order something. But I feel like from the most down to earth people. Go ahead. What happened?
No, I was gonna say I think I sent you a set, girl. I think I'm going.
I did not get a set.
Or it will be there by the end of this week. We'll say that.
All right. It's good to know. I'm excited about that. But I feel that the most humble people and down to earth people are because they've been humbled. They've been brought back down to earth. So I'm super excited for you to kind of lay out how you got here. And I remember you saying your mom was a big part of that. So how the fuck did you get here, Sabrina? Other than
Great
Helen?
fucking question. Yeah, other than Helen. All right, I can actually give like my experience, and then since Helen's here, I can let her give her firsthand experience of how that affected her as well. So I moved to New York when I was 19 to become an actor, which was lol, that didn't happen. But I went to acting school. I learned a lot. You know, that's the story of my fucking life. 27 dresses, but I thought that was like the path for me. And then I quickly realized it wasn't. And so I went to fashion school and started working in the fashion industry, and Dolce Vita was my first like real job, working as like the manager and the buyer of the store and things like that. And that's where I was like, wait a minute, I could do this as an industry. Like I could do this as a career. And I fell in love with sales, which in hindsight, that was naive of me because I fucking hate doing that right now. But at the time I thought it was super cool. Like I love doing wholesale and being in market and making the connections. I'm really connection driven. And so that's always been what's driven me even through the business, is creating a community and creating people that come together for commonality. And so I think in fashion, you can do that in a bit more of an authentic way as opposed to like just a followy sheep Vogue type way. And that's kind of what I always wanted. And so when I started there, I was working for multiple different companies in my like 5 or 6 years of working in sales prior to starting Softwear. And that is really where it started to come very obvious that like there is a hole in the market and there's a fucking problem with the way things that are done in the industry. And it was like, it started with my first job where the guy was super misogynistic. And I'll never forget when I told him I felt stifled because he didn't give me the tools that I needed. He told me my job. I told him, I was like, you want me to get new sales, but I have no line sheet. I don't have a lookbook. Like, I don't have the materials that I need to do my job effectively as the showroom manager of the East Coast and scale the business. And his response to me was, you're hired to push paper. Nobody asked you for your ideas. If you have a problem with that, you know where the door is. And the next day he had an escort walk me out after I crushed an appointment because he said that they didn't hire me for my ideas. And I was like, cool. So that was like the first of like, this is fucked up shit.
How long
and then
ago
I went
was that? Because I feel like that would, like, you could get him in so much trouble today.
I wish. It was 2014 or 2015.
Not that long.
Not that long. That's what scares me. And like, they're still around. And then the next job I had was the showroom that I was at, and it was like super high end, really designer. And that's, talk about the devil wears Prada. Like, that is very much a real thing. There's just, they don't care about you. They don't give a shit about your fucking well-being. They don't care about how you're doing. They literally don't care. They could watch you. They could just walk right over you. And sorry that you felt any pain from that. And that was when Mom got sick. And so while I was at that showroom, I was miserable. I had like broken out, cystic acne all over my face. I had been working, like, no joke, about like 18-hour days, 7 days a week. I was in market for 3 months. I killed it. I went over budget. Like, I crushed it. I went 5 million over the books that we were supposed to hit. Like, I had done such a great job. And when I asked for a day off, they told me that I would have to pay them for it and give them, like, I would have to work an extra day just to get a day off. And I remember calling my mom, like, losing it. And it was market 2017. And at that time I was looking for another job in the active industry because in 2016, I kind of changed my entire life. Like, I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit my anti-anxiety and antidepressants. I went paleo and I started working out, and I lost like 30 pounds within like 3 months because I was just
died doing all of that.
You're telling me I kind of did. Like, part of me did die, and I like resurfaced as a new version.
Like, you're not supposed to do that all at one time, y'all. Like, she's a freak. She's an outlier. Like, oh.
It was one of those like now, yeah, I wouldn't suggest anybody do that now, but at the time I was like, you know what, fuck it. I broke up with my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, time for a detox. And God. I did. But in that time was when I realized, like, I loved the fitness industry. I loved health and wellness. I loved the authentic version of what it meant that you could become a better version of yourself if you take care of yourself in a different way. And that is when, in that time, I was just looking for another job. By no means did I think any of this that happened would happen. And that's when my mom called me and said, like, I'll never forget. She said, I have a headache. And she was walking on the ocean. Mom's very spiritual. And she was like, the ocean's yelling at me. And I remember I was like, all right, Mom, like, it's all in your head. I don't know what that means. And I was right, because literally it was in her head, because she went to the doctor and they found 6 brain aneurysms that corroded the top half of her vessel. And what is it, Mom?
I had dissection of the carotid arteries, both sides.
Yeah.
So that complicated being able to go in and embolize the rest of the aneurysms. So the bottom line was, since we can't go in, we're going to have to open up, and it's brain surgery at its worst. But luckily, my daughter was there for me, and she said to me, "You can do it." And a very simple thing, blood thinners. He said, try it. What do we have to lose?
Well, let's also preface, even before that conversation happened, like, my job told me it was job abandonment if I went home. So I told them to fuck off, and I walked out. And the worst part was they knew her really well, and like, they loved her. But they said, she doesn't need surgery yet. So why are you running home? Welcome to the fashion industry. And then when we went to the doctor, are you frozen, or is that just, okay?
No, I'm just in shock.
I was like, so then when we went to the doctor, no, please. No, I was like, I just want to make sure I'm talking.
This is riveting.
And so then when we went to her doctor, they, like, at first we thought it was one aneurysm. Then we're like, okay, they'll coil it and call it a day. And I remember it was like, again, this was like, I lost my job. I went to Florida. That's where my mom lives. That's where I'm from, and stayed there for like 2 months. And we went to her. She had a specialist that was like the top neurosurgeon in the country. And we had like 5 or 6 iPhones, like all these phones laid out with the entire family all over the country. And the doctor was like, yeah, so I've consulted with like 10 specialists in the US. None of us have ever seen this case before. We've never experienced anything like this. We're giving her a 3 to 5% chance of even surviving this. And we're anticipating paralysis, neck down, blindness, or death.
And not just from it wasn't just the aneurysm starting to intrude. It was because of the complications of what was going on for the carotid arteries. Yeah. So
you're giving us
so
dead sentence.
How soon after you finding out did you have to get brain surgery, and was this the type of brain surgery where you had to be awake?
Well, good question. Because the fact that at the end, when we were in consultation with the doctor, and he had said, we can try one thing. Let's do the blood thinners. We'll go aggressively with the blood thinners and hope that it will thin out and do dissection enough for me to go in. It's called an angiogram. So you go in through the groin and all the way up to the brain. If he's able to go in, then he can coil the aneurysms. But if he's not, because he's afraid because of the dissections, that it may go to the brain and I'll have a stroke. So I tried it for a few months, and then I did another angiogram, which would show if there was any effect. He said to me, I still can't go in. And we tried several times. Then finally he said to me, the only thing I could suggest is you stay awake. And it's scary. It's a very scary thing.
Surgery.
Well, yes, because when you go for any other kind of surgery, the heart or any other part of the body, literally when you're awake and something is in your brain, there's nowhere to go. I mean, you kind of see inwards what's going on. You literally are seeing inwards. I was scared, but I said, I need to know.
Talk about that for what that means for a second, seeing inwards. So I might get emotional when you're talking about this, because one of my favorite clients had brain surgery, and I remember his wife sent me a video of his surgery, and he was awake, and it just blew my mind that was even humanly possible.
Oh yeah,
it was way too much. It crossed the boundary of client professional relationship.
It's a very
I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, but it does. It's definitely something that a person needs to do. I mean, I fought it for a while, and they tried several times to go in by putting me to sleep. But what happens is that when they're afraid to go in because they don't see how you're responding. You need to be awake to respond to them, so they can proceed to go inside. If that is people have asked me, how does that feel? And I've always said, if that's how it feels when you're on a psychedelic high or whatever, I don't know what the joy of that is, because it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Try it. I mean, you gotta try it.
I try to report back.
Trust me.
That'd be great.
Trust me. This is a whole different level. A whole different level.
I believe you.
But the thing is, I'll tell you, it pulls you in such a way that you want to let go and let it just be. And it kind of I felt that if I did let go in that way, that I wouldn't come back. And I'm not being dramatic about it. That's how I felt. Now, maybe someone who is more daring than I probably would have. There are some people who, if you ask them their experience with this, they'll say, hey, it was really cool. But what was really cool is the equipment that you actually see. It's like a sci-fi movie. If I tell you that the room was from end to end, these large screens, where my brain was spread throughout all those. And that's what they were going. And throughout the whole time
you could see what they were doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
did you have a choice?
Well, so the first we had 3 times where they kept saying we were going to try again. So the whole family came together, and we had the waiting at the hospital for fucking 20 hours. And and the doctor would come out. We got some great images, and we're like, what does that mean? Because they were scared that if he went up, that the dissections were going to break off and she would die immediately from a stroke. So it was like, well, fuck. So that's when the the blood thinners came into play. So when this final surgery happened, ironically, he was like, this is our last time before we go in and break the skull. The problem is, when you crack the skull, you're talking months and months and months of recovery, if you even can recover again, because it's so invasive at your fucking brain. And so what they do is, when they're even doing the surgery, he's using gloves because it's robotics. You have to be so still because it's so sensitive. One false slip, he was telling us the way that there's the veins here and then here and what they all do. He's like, literally by not even so minute, if you even slip the human hand, you could fuck up everything. She could have lost everything. So everything is through. He has gloves that he puts his hands in, and it's all robotics, so they have to be so precise and still that's the only way. And of course, I was not there for it. She didn't want, because the siblings, the whole family, it's a heavy dynamic. We have a lot of shit going on through us all. She just wanted my nephew. So my sister and my nephew went down, and we were literally just waiting by the phones, being like, I remember FaceTiming her, and I was like, this is either going to go really well, or this is the last time I'm ever going to see her. No one knew what was going to happen. And then after her surgery, my sister sent us a photo of her in the bed like that and was like, she was a fucking champ. They did it. The doctor is a brilliant man. He created a coil. It worked on her. And
yeah, I mean, you do have to have the luck of having a good neurosurgeon. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know, there's so many components when you go to a doctor and you have a situation. Luck, of course, plays a great deal, but the credibility of the surgeon and his wanting to find a solution and not just look outside the box and do what needs to be done was really paramount. I mean,
I don't believe in luck. I believe in skill and God, like that.
Well, yes, I mean the skill. You're absolutely right. He had the skill, and I believe in God as well. Absolutely. But that comes, it kind of comes all together, you know, to have had the blessing to have found the right doctor and have him be, you know, proactive in a way, because a lot of doctors go in and they kind of give you the very kind of basics and say, well, that's all I know, that's all I can do. And a lot of people fall through that, you know, so I was quite blessed.
Yeah, this doctor, he's rad. Like if you text him, he'll text you back. Like he even said, like, I want to figure this out. He got pleasure at figuring these really hard cases out. So she was like a joy for him because they had 10, I think he said he consulted with 12 specialists across the country. And he's like, no one's ever seen this before because of the way that her aneurysms were connected to, normally you have like a blood vessel and then you have a neck and then you have the aneurysm so that you can coil it and then it kills it. Hers, of course, were like completely deformed and connected to the vessel. So there was nothing they could do besides the doctor's like, we got to shut the entire vessel down. And that's where that risk came in of blind paralysis. He was like, neck down, you could be a vegetable. Like, we don't know. But I'll say this to all the ladies, when a guy tells you he's busy, call bullshit. The doctor was able to answer the phone for his wife when she called during surgery to make sure she was okay and that the kids didn't need anything.
It's true.
How?
How? I was on the table.
I would be fucking livid. I'd be like, she can wait. Heat up a pizza.
You have to relish at this because, you know, I hear the phone ringing and I said, the phone is ringing and oh, hi, honey.
I'm losing it.
has this conversation, but never lost a minute of what he was doing. He was able to, you know, he's a Renaissance man. He was able to do it all. He's
a brilliant, like when you speak to him, like this guy was from 5 a.m. until midnight and he just was super casual. Like you need to be like that, a slight bit detached because, you know, you're dealing with something very touchy. But yeah, I mean, we didn't know. I think though the entire way, like I remember we watched The Secret and I remember the one thing I took from The Secret, because when they told her about the blood thinners, you know, her reaction was like, this isn't going to work. Like they don't think it's going to work. What's going to happen? We watched The Secret and I remember they were saying like, you don't need to worry about how it's going to happen. You just need to know it's going to happen. And this was such they talk about the epitome of that. And then we manifested that. Like mom just at that point, she just kept being like, I'm fine. We literally didn't allow those thoughts in our head of what if or anything. Nah, she was fine. We kind of just pretended as if none of this existed and she was just going to go in. Kind of in a healthy way to not feed and fester in like, oh, that's it. She's going to die in a month.
Well, I mean, it's like letting go of what you can't control, obviously. You know, it's not denial because I knew what was coming, but I kind of had to let go to God and say, I can only do so much. I'll take the blood thinners. I'll listen to that. And I'll go that route. And, you know, and it was time to go. And I told my son-in-law, let's go rock and roll on this one and let's do it. And it's funny because I kind of take humor in times of stress. And I think I probably was at my best in my jokes at that moment when they were prepping me. Seriously.
I find humor in very dark places as well. It doesn't go over great all the time. I will say I have offended a lot of people. But I have two questions. How paramount was your family, your surrounding, I guess not everyone had to be in family, but you're surrounding your tribe and your faith in those moments? Like how much do you attribute your success from this experience to the people around you and your belief system?
It's comprehensive. You can't do it alone. Obviously not. I had tremendous love and support from my children, from my sisters, and from friends. And the fact that everybody took it as, of course you can do it, had that attitude. I said, you know what, if everybody thinks so, then why not? You know, that kind of a thing. It wasn't an attitude of doom and gloom and crying and oh my God. It was like, you've got to do what you need to do. and keeping strong. I mean, they told me how they felt afterwards, but then I just said, well, if they're not worried, why should I? And, a positive attitude and a strength really does go a long way. Because when everybody around you is in good spirits and trying, you got to give it to them. You got to do it for yourself as well. So in terms of
sounds like they all showed up for you pretty hardcore.
Oh yes.
She also couldn't be alone. Like because the doctor made it clear, like, we didn't know how long she'd been living with these aneurysms. Like, there's no way really to tell. And he was like, so if she's alone and she has a stroke, you have an hour to get her from the house to the hospital to live. He's like, I can't tell you how many people die from that, where they have a stroke or anything happens, and they couldn't get there. So we were like, I came to Florida for 3 months. And I left my friends. I had really amazing friends. I had some savings, and I was like, fuck it. I just left. I left my dog and my apartment with them, and stayed with her there. And I think I came back for like 3 or 4 days, and I went back, and we would take turns. Like, my aunt would stay with her, and then I would stay with her, and then my sister would come down. Like, we were all very much a collective team, because like, it's just in those moments you have to. You don't really think about it. You just band together.
That was my second question. My second question, because it sounds like everyone gave everything so that you could have the strength, the support you needed to get to the other side of this in a healthy way, to give you. And the reality is, and I'm sorry if this is touchy, I'm not trying to
No, not at all.
come off abrasive, but what did this take from you? So like, if this is the example that this is what propelled you, or coming out, there was a lot of downward spiral, then this happened. It wasn't like this caused the downward spiral. You were already just kind of like perpendicular. This happened. It sounds like, from what you're saying, you quit the job, or did this happen? You quit smoking cigarettes, and then this happened. So like, what did this take from you, and how did this develop into the next step?
Honestly, I think like it was good. It took for me like the old naive child that I was, and like propelled me into becoming a fucking adult. Because like, I remember when we were at the hospital, my sister, because we've had like, listen, I have my sister and brother. It's like, we have sibling dynamics that are always gonna, we all have our shit. And my sister laid it out on me, all the shit that I was doing that she didn't like about me, and all of these things. I had no self-awareness. I wasn't in therapy. I wasn't trying to help myself. I didn't understand half of my traumas and all this shit that culminated into being the person that I was. And so when I quit the smoking and things, that was very surface. That was just the like, okay, this is the basic health stuff. Then my mom getting sick, it was like, oh, that's a nice kick in the fucking groin for me to feel like, oh shit, like you almost just lost somebody super important to you. And then it kind of coming together where all the family was there together, and seeing the dynamics, and losing my job, and pretty much like I hit rock bottom. And then I decided to dig further, and then I went a little further. And that was like, I think the first, when I really hit the lowest point of my life. And I'm so grateful for it, because it took a part of me that needed to go. I needed to grow the fuck up. I needed to become a woman. And being a business owner through the last now 5 years since this happened has continued to perpetuate that cycle, where every day I'm challenged and I'm put to the test, and as far to the fucking level and the heat that I could possibly take. And you have to practice not boiling over and not tipping over. But every time something like this happens, like even when my dog passed away, like, yeah, a piece of me died, but that's okay. Like, now it's time to rebuild. And it's almost like you shed the skin and you let go of that naive version of you that you had. And now it's time to step into like a more powerful version of yourself. Or you let it take over and you play victim, and you just say, oh, woe is me. And like, that's how you fall into drugs or whatever. Like, you can choose your own way and path that you want to take. And for me, I chose it as, all right, what else you got? Like, if this is just going to be like another clink onto my armor, it's like, then let's fucking go.
It's funny how, it's not funny, that's the wrong word. That's the absolutely wrong fucking word. But it's what just the next best thing. So everyone has their trauma, and like everyone has like a general bowl of trauma, and then they have like the ultimate trauma that is like, that's dark, that makes them a genuinely better person. And I feel like for my trauma, mine was being in a really physically abusive relationship when I was in college. When you get to that rock bottom, obviously it's hard when you're there. And like you said, there's always a little farther you can go. But I feel like once you really hit that rock bottom, you can't go back there.
No.
It's like a scab develops. And then the next time something bad happens, you'll fall. But then like I came back from that shit.
Right.
Like everything bad that happens is less bad.
Yeah, I mean, like similarly, like after my mom, like I thought that was the worst. It was like, oh no, then I had a business partner I started the business with, and that went to fucking shit, and I had to buy him out, and he didn't pay our taxes, and
There's
you're
always
like, oh
more.
Jesus, there's always more. And then it was like I was married to somebody, and he was super verbally abusive and like it just a fucking total narcissist. And then when I remember when she came to town because I was like, I can't get through this when we broke up. I was like, that's it, I'm done. Now and then my dog passing, who was my best friend of 10 years, who like was literally my everything. He was the pinnacle of joy for me every day. Now when shit happens, you're like, ah, fuck off. You don't even let yourself get to that low point, because it's like you said, if I can get over that, like if I have, like I've been dating somebody new, everything's going great, lovely. But like for all the fuck boys prior, after all that shit happened, I was like, please. I've gone through so much worse. Like you are like a blip on my fucking screen. I'm going to forget your name in a week. And like right before our call, I got the text apology from one. I didn't even remember his name, because like who fucking cares anymore? It's like you have such bigger fish to fry. I think so many people, we focus on you micro, you go right into it, and it's like, or macro that shit and realize how much stronger you are as a person than you give yourself credit for, because 99.9% of the time that rock bottom place that you're so scared to hit is actually not that scary. Once you get there, you're like, oh, like even my dog, I was in denial for years. I was like, he's never going to die. We're going to mummify him. He's never going to die. That's it. I'm going to be with him forever. And I was like, that's it. He's going to live with me. And then when he passed of kidney failure, and like, yeah, I cry every day. I feel it going through, but I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't as scary that moment as I thought it was. Just like I think everything else in the world, I think the anticipatory anxiety is significantly worse than the actual fucking thing.
Well, you don't
Absolutely.
really go without pain. Pain is
No.
part of life. And if you embrace pain as part of life, then you can mature with it and grow.
Well, and you can help with all of your pain. This is how I look at it. All of your pain it's the most valuable part of us of creatures. It's the most valuable thing that we can experience. Love is great too, but I don't think you learn near as much from love as you do from failure and from pain. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I was just talking to my husband. It was funny when you said that, and the reason I laughed so hard is because I married the nice guy, the guy I was never attracted to, ever. And
No, I get that.
yeah, and I married him, and then like when we get in really bad fights, or if he does fuck up because he's a human being, I like have to pretend to be mad at him. I'm like, I need a moment, and I like go in the bathroom. I'm just like dying laughing. I was like, this is fucking nothing. Like
Nothing. Because you grow
That's
through what
funny.
you go through. And it's like,
Yeah.
how many people, I think, and then it's like, that's even like such a cultural thing in dating and whatever, even business ownership, everybody, we're such a generation that like Googles everything before we do everything, because we want that, we want to know. We want to know that what's going to, you don't go to a restaurant without looking up the menu first, because you don't want to go and get blindsided. So I think there's so much preventative measures of, well, I don't want to get hurt. And especially in dating, how many times I see that where you're like, you know, you have to fucking date someone to get into a 6-monther, right? You know, you have to have a relationship, you're going to have to go through pain. And I think people are so adverse to it that when it happens, it's this whole entire meltdown where it's like, yo, dude, you're a lot stronger than you think. You just need to believe in yourself a little bit more.
We could
And,
talk
like,
about that for hours. I
Oof.
swear to God, we could talk about that for hours. Whenever people, like I have a lot of single friends or divorced friends, and they'll be dating, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this one. Or this one's the one I think I could marry again. I'm like, did you guys have your first argument yet? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
we never fight. I'm like, then you can't be serious. You cannot be serious with someone until you have your first bad argument. Because
Yeah, shit needs to happen.
It needs to happen. You need to see how they handle anger. I mean,
Yeah.
and you too. Everyone brings different personalities, different auras, bring out different versions of yourself.
Totally. I mean, even like before, the guy that apologized today, I was supposed to be on Shark Tank this summer.
Adam.
Yeah, this guy, I don't even fucking remember this guy's name. That's how fucking terrible it is. But I was supposed to be on Shark Tank, and we had gone on a date. Everything was great. And I had literally been canceled 9:00 at night. The next morning I was supposed to be aired on Shark Tank. Like I was supposed to go on. I was like, and this was the second time they had done it to me. I was fucking gutted. And they were like, sorry, that's it. You're done for the season. We'll try you again next year. And I remember telling him, and his response was ignoring me for 9 hours and then saying, sorry to hear that. And it was just like, that's when you realize, like, you don't have the capacity to even be there for me. And then the apology today proved that. Whereas the guy that I'm dating now, he's the nice guy, same thing. And when we've been through my dog passing, his father passing, like it's been 2 months and we've been through so much condensed, so many conversations. but we've grown through it. And now we're understanding like, oh, right, we can communicate through this, and we can have, again, I don't know if it's going to fucking last forever. That'd be nice. And if not, that's cool.
Stick with the nice guy.
Yeah, the nice guy. We're here. I'm here.
You'll
for
learn
it.
to love him. You'll learn to love him.
But like, it's just, it's like you let go of the petty nonsense and you start to realize what actually matters is like, yeah, support, reciprocity, someone that shows up for you when you're in your fucking low times, not someone that's going to ignore your phone call for 9 hours because it's too much for them to handle. Like,
no, I totally agree. And you can parallel that to a business partner. I feel like my
100%.
marriage has made me a better business partner because I've learned that, okay, you bring this to the table, but how do we handle conflict together?
100%.
Emotionally, how do you communicate? Like those the same things that I look for in a relationship are the type of people that I'm going to give money to as well.
100%. I tell people every time, I'm like, if you want to get a business partner, I'm like, you're in a relationship. That's a marriage. Just as equally, when you sign that fucking paper, and I know because I bought my business partner out, and I still like him as a human, but he was a terrible partner. And it's like, I'm stoked. And now I have somebody new who is unbelievable. And like, we have our issues and he's super calm and we can talk it out. He's the nice guy. He's the nice guy of the business world. Because you realize like, yeah, if you're going to own a business, it's a relationship. You're talking to them a lot more half the time than you're talking to your own fucking spouse. And you have a lot on the line. You have your livelihood, you have your name, you have your reputation, you have your product, you have everything that you have all this time and energy and resources that you're cultivating a relationship. And when I see people getting into a business partnership quick, I'm like, wait. You know this person for like 3 weeks and you're already signing, you're putting money into an account to get.
Okay. Well, how did you vet with the relationship you're in? For people that are watching, here's a tidbit of value you can take. What were the healthy signs that you found and you were like, this could work?
So I'm Jewish and I kind of equate it to when people want to be Jewish. He knocked on my door like 30 times and I kept saying no and he kept coming back. And so that's what happens when you try to convert, is that they continuously say no to you until you finally show them that you want it. And it wasn't a game. It was that my current partner, Stu, he was a client of mine. He was a buyer of a huge company. From the second we met in 2019, he believed in me. He believed in the product. He believed in us. He took us in. And the only reason we stopped working with him is because he got promoted and, it was a change of regime. And that was just the end of that relationship. And over COVID, he would always check in on me. Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? Hey, how's the business? I really believe in it. And then it started where I think it was like end of COVID, like the end of the lockdowns, like, November time, where he was like, hey, I'm kind of looking to do something else. Like, here are my skill sets. Are you open to it? And I kept being like, nope, and just kept saying no. He'd be like, hey, whenever you're ready. And it wasn't until because when I bought my business partner out, you don't realize how much you need 2 people or even 3 or maybe even 4 to run a business. Like being a solo entrepreneur of a product-based business, like it is fucking hell on earth. Mom can attest to it, as she has been there through all of the inventories and all of the breakdowns and all of my old apartment in Brooklyn. I had a second floor because I was very lucky and it was my distribution center. And I had 115 boxes and 3 racks and it was insane. And we were shipping wholesale orders and I was going to USPS every day. Like it was hell on earth. Plus tie-dyeing everything myself. And she would hang up all the stuff to dry. Like you doing it yourself is a nightmare. And so, but I wanted to experience that because I believe as a business owner, if you don't do and I'm sure you can relate, if you don't do every single job yourself, you don't know how to hire effectively. You don't know what skill sets. And then on top of it, when someone fucks up, you can go to them and be like, hey man, I did this job. I know that it doesn't take 3 hours to write 1 email. So you charged me for all this when I did it myself and it took me 9 minutes actually. So you're able to come with more confidence and backing as opposed to some people have a ton of money and throw it into a product and go, boo. So when it came to vetting for a business partner, I wanted to see how much I could do by myself, how far I could take that and where I needed the help. So then when I was seeking somebody, when we were discussing things, his skill set of inventory and planning and all of the wholesale, that whole back end, because he was a buyer, that's what he does is figure out what you need. That was one of the biggest things I needed help with because that's how you can lose a lot of money in a business that's product based. You make the wrong stuff. Well, you don't sell it. Good luck. You're not making any more. So that was how I was able to vet him, was really making sure, one, how many conversations did we have that were amicable, that we were able to talk things through. I gave it time before we signed to the dotted line. I did everything myself. And I truly, because I had probably at this point, I've had 30 people, like big brands like Parachute and I forgot the name of the other, offer to buy us, wanting to invest and things like that. I've said no because our visions don't align. And so it's really important when you have a brand, especially if you've already founded something or you have something that you really believe in, like us, Made in America and sustainability and the quality, Every person that has come to us said that they want to move to China. And into the conversation, I didn't ever entertain it. Even if you could promise me the moon, the stars, and the sun, but then I'd rather sell it and be done with it. I'm not ready to do that. So I think when you're looking for a new partner, it's super important to maintain and ensure that you guys have the same visions, the same ethos, the same wants and needs in a life, kind of the same thing you do in a relationship.
The exact same thing you do. And I want to touch on something you said that was so important, and that was doing everything yourself. And I bring it back to when I first started. And I've said this in so many other episodes. When I first started, I did so much more wrong than I did right. I did way too much. I overcompensated. I spent way too much money and wasted time. Money and time are the same thing. And in the beginning, you think you have more time, but you don't. And you start doing stupid shit. And one thing I've learned that's really helped me, and I hope that if you're watching this and you're earlier in your stage of entrepreneurship, whatever the fuck it is, you understand that you're one client away, you are one relationship away, you are one wholesaler away from losing everything, one review away. And the sooner you learn to have a philosophy and fucking live and die by that philosophy, even if it means making less money for more time or taking longer to make more money, I believe in my heart of hearts, and this is why you do something you're passionate about, because nobody likes making less money than the other person that's posting on Instagram is doing the same shit. You will succeed, and longevity will be in your corner. Like, I believe that. I did not do that for the first 2 years. I ate whatever I could kill. And now I'm stuck with those fucking people and they won't fucking leave. And that's hard. It's hard to rebrand.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
I mean, dude, I think in my philosophy, it's like, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And it's like, I could very easily, like, my mom experiences it with me. She's been so integral. Like, she's even here helping me because guess who has to do inventory this week? Yay. Yeah, both of us. We've got 3,000 units to count and organize, because at the end of the day, it's like, I just, one, it's like, it's good help is hard to find. We all know that. It's hard to find people there. No one's going to care about your business as much as you do. So, like, first, everyone needs to fucking understand that. No one, I don't care on the planet, is going to care as much as you do. Exactly. You got to just, that's what it is. And that you will become a better boss if you finally fucking understand that. Because so many bosses I would expect me to care about it as much as they are. And I'm like, man, I'm not making the money. I'm making my fucking salary. I go home at the end of the day. But I think at least, like, with us, I can speak for software. It's a very oversaturated market. Oh, no one's heard of athleisure before. Like, everyone and their mother is trying to do it. Everybody is trying to stand out. It's the same with, like, same type of thing that you were saying. It's like, everybody's trying to be the loudest in the room. And I remember my first partner, he said some little tidbits that were amazing. And I remember, because I was the same as you. When I first started, oh my God, I would take any client that walked in, even if they wanted 2 pieces, I would take it. Cause I was like, I just got to get the product out. And I didn't have really any, like, backbone to say no. And I remember there was a client that they didn't like the fit. And I went back to my partner at the time and I was bitching and moaning, oh, we need to change it. And I remember he's like, you need to have fucking confidence in the product that you make and understand you are not going to please everybody, because there's nothing on the planet. You can't even say fucking pizza will please everyone, because someone's going to come in and say, well, I'm gluten-free. And there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like what you say. I learned that by being on TikTok as well, that, like, people are very opinionated and they will tell you how they feel. And if you just have the confidence and you stand by it, yeah, you're going to weed out a lot of people, but then you're also going to get a really great army of people that believe in what you're doing and they believe in the product. And I remember he said, if you put our hoodie on a rack and you took all the tags off, you took the Nike shit, you took everything off, and you had every brand, are you confident that ours would stick out? And I was like, I am. And he was like, great, then we're doing the right thing. And that's what I've lived by. And instead of this year, from, yay, inflation, our prices went up 40%. First thing people ask, oh, okay, well, then you can do a different fabric. No, we're going to stick to what we're doing. We're going to adjust our pricing and we're going to adjust to the economy that we're in, but we're not going to give up on that. Could I make more margin? Yeah, I could. I could make more money. Do I want to? One day, but not at the expense of my identity and what I believe in.
No, and that's real. But I think that if people took less time to get there, and I know that's easier said than done. Everyone's insecure when they're trying something new. Everyone. But when I look back at the last 8 years, and that's what I despise the most about my journey, is me going on a Saturday at 12 o'clock to the mall to meet someone because they don't want to come to the office, but they don't want me to come to their house, and then sitting with them for an hour and a half, and then they don't even become a client. Like, just learning how to say no. I mean, it sounds so simple, but I've seen so many businesses sell their soul because they can't say no. So many clients.
100%. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've given so much free stuff. It's like,
you didn't have to send me anything free. When you said that, I was like, God damn it. We're going to talk about saying no and raising our prices. This bitch just sent me a whole set.
Well, we're selective about it, because then that's you live and learn. You do it for the right fucking people, the people that appreciate what you're doing. And that's my way of being like, you know what? Fine. The first one's on me. You want any more? It's on you then.
I got it. I'll get more. This is definitely, I mean, there's only so much fucking Lululemon a girl can own, and everyone has it, and I'm over it. My God. So over that brand. Okay, so how far from surgery, meltdown, did you actually take the steps to starting this? Until starting, when was Softwear born? How was it born?
So interestingly enough, so when mom was, let's backtrack. So May 20, it was right after my birthday. May 2017, mom got the news of what happened. And so I rushed down, like I had my birthday and I like went right down to Florida. I stayed with her June, July, August, and September, pretty much like all of that. And October, I was there like for a long time. I think I came home in October because I moved to Brooklyn. In that time, again, never thought I was going to own a business. I just thought this whole time that I was going to work for another brand. So I applied to every job under the sun, and I was just using my savings. And I had got I just was trying to figure this out. I came out to LA thinking I was going to move to LA in August. Was like, no, it's not for me yet. And I went back to New York. And at that time, the only job I could get was this one company. I won't say the name, but it was this one athleisure company, and it was insanely overpriced. It was like $300 for a jacket, like super expensive. And I was like, fuck it, I'll take it. You're like, no, they're no longer in business, and I will explain what happened. But anywho, so I got the job with them, and I was just there. I was going to handle all their sales for the United States. And at this time I had no client book. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Not in the active industry. I had like high-end designer. And I hit the fucking pavement, and I busted my ass, and I opened like 30 new accounts in a month. Like I was going hard. And that's when I started to realize, like, I really love building a community. I would go and see all the founders and doing all these events. Now I remember telling my mom, I was like, I want to do that. I want to have cool events. Like I want to be, making these amazing connections with people, but I was just a sales rep. Nobody really gave a shit about me. And I had given her a bunch of the samples from the company. And I remember she was like, yeah, they're really comfy, but they fucking shed like crazy. Like you would say hi and it would confetti out. And like to the point where like my friend's boss told her she wasn't allowed to wear it anymore, because she was like, dude, I left a trail all over their house. Like it was that bad. And so I remember, and my mom was like, but it just makes me feel so comfortable. But she hated so many things about, like, why does it have a zipper on the side? Like, who designed that? Why is there like a cutout in the arm? You were just like, who the fuck are you making this for? And at that time, I had just signed a brand new lease at this big apartment in Brooklyn that I could only afford because of this job. I had moved in, and I'm thinking like, new lease on life. Yay, got this amazing new job. Mom's going to be okay. She's going to have her surgery. Everything's going to be fine. Bloop, bloop. And then all of a sudden, she embezzled the money, closed the company, and within like 3 weeks, all my checks bounced, and she was like, sorry. And she closed. That was it. Her investor called me in and was like, I want to keep this company alive. So I consulted with my sister, and my sister had been in the fitness industry for fucking ever. And I was like, what is missing? And she was like, what's missing is like true basics. Like I had a lot of clients too being like, why can't I just get a pair of black pants? Who just makes a pair of black pants without this gaudy drawstring or the mesh or the stars or fucking $300 for something made locally? Like nobody was doing a high quality piece at a decently affordable price, all things considered that it's made in LA, or at the time we were made in Brooklyn. And that's when I had that like light bulb go off. So I conceptualized Softwear thinking that this guy was just going to pay me a salary, and it would be Softwear by her company name. And that was going to be it. 2 weeks later, they call me in saying, you know what, never mind. I put enough money into this. And I was like, all right. And so at the time, my friend, a good friend of mine, Lindsay, she was an HGTV producer. And she said, listen, I've started tons of shows, and my brother is a manufacturer. He invests in these companies and creates product for them. You guys should have a meeting. Maybe you can invest in this company. I showed him my pitch deck. I explained to him everything that was going on. And he was like, why don't we just do it? Like, I can do the back end, you do the front end. And I was like, hey, fuck that, I'm not a business owner. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any money. He was like, I'll put the money in. Like, I'll put the seed money in. Let's do it. No. And then I remember I was telling mom, and we were just kind of like, yeah, we'll see, maybe down the road. And then she went in for her final surgery. And when I got that photo of her in the hospital bed, I texted him and I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And the next day we started the LLC and we just went for it. Like, I didn't even think about it. I just was like, let's go. And then that just snowballed into like getting samples made. And my ex at the time was a men's health editor, so he helped us with the men's. My sister came for all the fittings for the women. I really honed in on the brand. And then we started sales, and we didn't hit the market. That was November 2017 that mom had that. We didn't hit the market until November 2018 because it took me 9 months to figure out the fabric issue.
Which is fair. That's no, you need time, guys. Like, it takes time to invent something that's worth selling. So I think a lot of people just like, they hit up Alibaba and they're like, 2 months, let's go. Like,
it's true.
That's an acceptable amount of time, 9 months.
Yeah. Like 9 months to figure out that. And then, we had to get into production and we had to do everything. So it took us a solid year. I think it took us like 9 months to start doing wholesale. And then by the time we got the website going and everything, it was a year. And yeah, totally. I agree with you. Like, I wasn't trying to rush it any sooner, like maybe a month. It was like, okay, let's go. But I knew that it was going to take time. If I was trying to change the way basics were made and I was trying to do something different than was on the market, that means you have to create something that's different than what's on the market. And so it took me, it took us like 9 months, to do the fabric and find the right mill and to find it's a family-owned fabric manufacturer here in LA. I work super close with her. We come up with things all the time. And it was like, I think we had 47 fittings also to create the perfect. And to this day, it's now been 5 years, so 4 years since I launched the product. We just had our anniversary a couple of days ago, or tomorrow will be. Thank you. Awesome. But it took me, to this day, I'm still perfecting the same fucking styles. I'm still making sure that I'm like,
that's gonna change. You're gonna do that the rest of your time.
100%. Like, it's always going to be an evolution. There's always going to be ways, because you also take consumer feedback. There's a difference between one person saying they don't like it and being like, yeah, whatever, and then 75 clients all giving you the same feedback that you're like,
oh my God, yes. That is such a good point. Ask for criticism.
Yeah,
I just started doing that in the last probably 18 months. I finally created a survey and was like, tell me where I could be better. And I was so scared of that. But that is so crucial. That is so crucial to having a successful business. Not only just sending out the survey, but then actually reading it.
Yeah.
Is
listening to the feedback.
Good point.
Because a lot of people are scared. You feel, oh, it's negative. I don't want to hear an attack. And I'm like, listen, I don't want you to make fun of me. Like, I don't want you to put me down. Like, you don't need to be mean about it. But like I said, when it depends too. Like, if someone says, oh, the price is too high, you're like, okay, well, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Like, there's nothing I can really do about that. We've costed it out. Like, welcome to Made in America. But like, we had the same thing where, exactly. We had like literally everyone and their mother was complaining about the pocket size in the pant. So we changed the pocket size. Great. Men's joggers. We're going to add a drawstring in for 2023 because for 4 years now, guys have been asking for a drawstring. We sold them well, but we think we're selling them better. So we listened to the feedback, and I learned that because ironically we poo-poo on Lululemon, but that was my first job when I was 19 and I moved to New York. I worked at the store.
They were better then.
100%. That was when the owner still owned it. Like, it was the better product.
They were better then.
But I learned so much from his process. And I look, it's harder to look at companies like Adidas and Nike. They've been around for so long. They're institutionalized. It's hard to really learn from brands like that. And it's also hard to learn from brands that just have, $500,000 or $500 million and they're throwing product down your throat. It's like, you're not really necessarily learning from them. But I learned from Chip Wilson he made one product and perfected it, the groove pant, until it became a multi-million-dollar business. And then he added SKUs. He didn't have 7,000 offerings because you're going to lose your shirt by doing that. And secondly, he had a feedback board, and we took feedback and we would send it to corporate, and they would literally make new iterations saying, we got a certain amount of feedback on this product, so we made it. And they would test and then invest, which is my favorite Matthew Hussey quote. But it's like, they would put a little, and if it worked,
good.
Yeah, then they would invest more into it. And I kind of live by that now, where, like I said, just because one person says, oh, this is too tight. Okay, well, then you don't understand our fit. We're a more tailored fit, and that's not what you want. But if everybody is saying, oh, the shirt's riding up in the back, like my brother's famous saying is, if everyone calls you an asshole, you got to turn around and see you have a tail. Like, so it's like, if everyone's saying the same thing, you got to put your ego aside and also learn, like, you're not making a brand for you. You're making a brand for whoever's going to fucking pay for it.
With that being said, and Helen, this is about to be inappropriate, so you might want to cover your ears. I got a fat hoo-ha. Can you make a pant without a seam in the front? Like, nobody wants a camel toe. Like, why is everyone not offering those?
So funny you should say that. I worked for a company and their slogan was say no to the toe. They had a pant that didn't have that. Now let me tell you what the problem was. You looked like a fucking Ken doll. You looked like you had no anatomy. It was phallic. Did not look right. And also there's also a thing of just like manufacturing. Like the harder, the more at least for in America, the machines that they have are still pretty basic, unfortunately. And that's why a lot of people opt for China, because China just has so much more advanced technology because this is what they do. And they also fuck you with pricing and charge. They like, if I told you how much, here, I'll give you a thing. How much does it cost Nike to make a t-shirt printed with like all their stuff on it? How much do you think?
In China?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say 30 cents.
6 cents.
Oh my God.
6 cents.
Yeah.
So that's when you're like, how can you even give like humane? That's why like Shein just got like fucking thrown under the bus because people are like looking and these employees are treated so terribly. Like it's so inhumane. It's insane. But how do you think you can buy something for a penny? Like it doesn't happen. So yeah, I mean, there's also certain things that within our confines. Yeah. And then it's like, then you start adding on things of like minimums and it starts to add up. And it's not until you're in production that you start to understand why you can't do more. Like, I'd love to be able to be like, oh, I can make that for you. But it's like, realistically, I actually don't think I could.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm going to remember that the rest of my life. That fun fact. If you could go back and give yourself advice 5 years ago, what would you say?
There's a couple of things. I think I would tell myself, like, learn to crawl before you walk. Like, don't try to fucking force it. Like we've talked about. Don't try to fit a circle in a square peg. Like your time is going to come. Do the hard work, learn your lessons. And also like my dad growing up, he would always say this, listen, then learn. And he would always drill that into every boss. He would be like, shut your mouth and listen. Because when you shut your mouth and you stop the chatter and you listen to what's going on, you learn a lot more than when you're because you start to look at what everybody else is doing and you're like, I see the holes here. So I think I would tell myself just like to fucking chill. It's like, it's going to come, it's going to happen. You're putting yourself through so much more anxiety than you need to be because it's all going to work out as it should. And I also say this to myself for my future me, like, this is also a gentle reminder for what's to come. And just also like, you got to believe in yourself and your product. Like you're going to go through some really hard times and like, you're going to be tested along the way. And if you lose your shit, like I used to on like a fucking button would break off and I'd lose my marbles. And now I laugh at that because it's like, it's just not worth it at the end of the day. Like we have such a short time here and you really have to enjoy the process while you're having it. Cause I know friends that had massive companies that sold it for $100 million and they are now in an identity crisis because they don't know who they are. And when you ask them like, hey dude, would you go back? They're like, I miss more than anything being in my fucking shitty ass apartment, busting my ass, working hard because it was mine. And I lost all that. You add zeros to your problems. That's all you're doing. So it looks glorious to have but it's like the lonely man in the tower. It's not that glamorous once you get there. So enjoy that step over along the way because you're not going to get it back.
The process. Yeah, I'm in one of those seasons right now where I'm just taking it every 5 minutes. Yeah. My husband lives in Houston. I got a 3 and a 2-year-old. I own a business. I have a book. It's just like constant. Yeah. And everyone's always checking in on me being like, hey, like, how are you doing? And I'm like, not well, but I know that in maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 15 years, I'm going to look back at this. I'm going to miss this.
100%.
I know I'm going to miss it. And another thing that I really think is important I've actually gotten this question a few times on different episodes, totally unrelated. And people asked me, how often do you not know what you're doing?
Oh.
I would say probably 70% of the time. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out and that is okay. I think that you'll find people way more successful than me and you that still don't know what the fuck they are doing. What advice 100%. Would you give to people that are not taking the next step because they have no idea what the fuck they're doing?
Oh God, it's called imposter syndrome. And boy, do I embody it. I can't tell you how many times I've called her and been like, I can't fucking do this. I'm done. I can't do it. And every time Helen does the same thing. Okay, you know what? fine. We'll liquidate everything, Sabrina. You can go get a job. And I'm like, all right. Yeah, it fucking worked. Because what I think, yeah, I'm like, I think the best advice for that is like, I hear this all the time of people that I'm not ready to start my company. I'm not ready. And I'm like, cool. You're just, the more excuses you,
I get that
all the time. I have so many friends. I'm like, I want to strangle you. What do you mean?
like maybe next year when like this calms down, I'm like, there's always going to be something.
Always. It's like, it's the same. It's a parallel. It's the same with dating. Oh, I can't be in a relationship. I'm not ready. And it's like, you're never fucking ready. You're never truly ready to take that step to be an entrepreneur. And honestly, I was guilty of that too. I wish I had a better answer as to what that aha moment was. I truly don't remember after I got the photo of her, what prompted me to text my partner and say, fuck it, let's go. I think it was because, I know what it was. What fuck am I trying to kid? What it was
fucking short.
That and the thought of going back to the insanity and the misery that I was in prior and having mom survive all of this to hear me bitch about more bosses that I fucking hated and doing something I wasn't happy with and not be all of that. I couldn't allow myself to live another day in that space. And I remember there's a Jim Carrey quote that I love. And he says, depression is when the character that you are playing is sick and tired of being that avatar. And that's how I felt. I was in such a depression because I was sick and tired of being this version of myself that wasn't me. And now I've come out of the person that I am, and I'm very unapologetically who the fuck I am. And you either like it or you don't. And that sounds like a personal problem of yours. Because at the end of the day, if you listen, you want to be the definition of insanity and you want to keep going to your 9 to 5 that makes you miserable, you do you, boo. Then shut the fuck up and stop telling every one of your friends how miserable you are, because no one has sympathy for people that don't take actionable steps. So unless you try it, and if you fail, there's no such thing. It's called learning. You didn't fail, you try again, you get up, you dust the knees. I have had so many fucking failures in software, and every time I look at it as, well, we still are here, right? So that means we have another day that we can try something different. It's not a failure, it's just, we just need to veer a little bit to the left. And I think if you reframe and you also just believe in yourself, which is so cheesy, but it's so true, because no one's going to buy it from you. If you don't believe in what you're selling, who the fuck is going to believe you? And I could sit here and sell you this, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. Like I was good at that. I learned how to do that, but I needed to sell myself on it too, that I could do it. And then I wasn't until I've been doing it. And how many times I tell her I can't, that once I started doing it, I was like, oh shit. You can't. You're proving yourself wrong. You're taking all of that negative chatter and all of that self-talk, and instead of proving it right and being like, well, here it is. See, I told you I couldn't do it. And then you just reinstate that core belief. You're challenging the thought and going, no, shut that screw tape off. That doesn't apply anymore. I can do it. And you change that core belief. Thus you change and you grow and you become a better version of yourself. So if you're sitting here and mulling it over by the end of this conversation, if you're still unsure, like Mel Robbins says, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get the fuck up and do something. Do a step. You can't, Rome wasn't built in a day. I didn't build this company in one day. It took me a solid year, but every day I took steps towards it. And if you look at the macro, it's fucking terrifying. If you look at the micro and realize it's just one step above, do one piece of paperwork today that gets you a step closer. And then you start to build that confidence.
Yeah. And I think one thing we're not touching enough on is some people have more. Maybe it's from trauma, maybe it's from your childhood. Some people have more negative self-talk than others. And I would say one actionable step that those people can do is network. There's too many people that come in my inbox or get on an intro call or come in my office that are like, well, I just don't know people that do that, or I don't know who to talk to. Join your chamber. Get on Facebook. Get on Clubhouse. Get on Twitter. Go through some hashtags. Get out and meet people. You were dropping some pretty awesome relationships earlier, like people that worked at HGTV. Those are relationships that you had to go out and you had to water. You had to invest in. Put yourself in places where people are smarter than you, more successful than you. And yeah, you might look fucking stupid at that luncheon. You only have to have one meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
If there's 50 people in the room, have one conversation where someone's going to remember your fucking face. Just have one. Do the work to make those relationships. You're right. I don't feel bad for people who are just trampled. They're frozen with fear and they to take those next steps. But your network is so important. And owning a business, even if you're not great at sales, you don't have to be great at sales to make a friend.
Oh,
you can
dude, If I told you, I think we just now paid for our first model this season because I networked the fuck out of myself. Hey, we need a model. You start asking people. You won't know until you ask. It's like when you're looking for an apartment, then you start putting it out there and all of a sudden people have apartments for you. Well, if you didn't ask, you wouldn't know. And I harness, like you said, very great. You have to water those connections. And I've had so many people be like, I just don't get it. I don't like have any friends here. I'm like, yeah, because you don't fucking try. You're not reaching out to people. You're not asking how they're doing. You're not asking for that coffee. You're not saying, let's go out and get a brunch. You're not doing anything. And you know what? You find me annoying. That's great. I don't really care. But what matters is at least I tried. So if I got you at that coffee, nothing comes out of it. That's okay. I tried though. It's better than me not having gone to that coffee with you. And so I knew nobody. I knew nobody when I started this brand. Let me re-emphasize that. My ex was the men's health editor. He had a few contacts, but even him, he was very secluded as a human. Everything I have built, all of this is same with our last event. Everyone's like, how did you get all these amazing brands here? I'm like, I fucking reached out, dude. I tried. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how few people actually message and reach out.
I was just going to say that, because you touched on your ex and how he with men's health. I would say, and I hope you agree with me, I wasn't going to sound like an idiot, more people that I don't fucking know like my shit, share my shit, have become clients. Very few actual friends, family members are the ones buying my shit. I mean, I love you, mom and dad, but they didn't become clients until I started making money and showed them that I could actually do it. The people in my inner circle didn't show support until strangers showed support. Stop trying to get the approval of the people that are already here. Go out, and you can still keep those friends, but I have my best friends from high school that have transgressed the boundaries. Then I have my superficial friendships that I still love, but their purpose is not, how do you say it politically correct? They're my friends here. And then I have my professional relationships that are still my friends that are supporting me. They're checking in on me. And stop being fucking scared to text people first. When did that? You will never be successful if you're like, oh, well, I texted her first the last 3 conversations, and now I'm gonna wait until she falls. What is that?
You gotta put your shame aside. It's the fear of rejection. Everything stems from this. It's all, listen, here's my also great piece of advice for people. If you have crippling anxiety, you have all these traumas, go to fucking therapy. You're not going to be able to move on in your life.
Marijuana.
That too. But you're not going to be able to, I wasn't until I started therapy that I was able to break through so many things. And I think honestly, that started after my breakup in 2018. I've become a different fucking person, a different business owner. I am a different version of myself, and I'm such a healthier and better, and I have so much more to go. And I'm so excited about where I have to go. And it's because you put your shame aside. I don't give a fuck if you don't like that I'm texting you asking for a favor. Guess what? You don't need to answer. But I can't tell you how many people, like you said, oh my God, my friend texted me the other day, I need that set. And I was like, great. So it's called wearsoftware.com. You can go and you can add it to cart. And then she'll come over and be like, I just bought $1,000 from this other brand. And I'm like, oh, you mean my competitor? So you have the money. You just choose to spend it on them. And it's like, that's cool. That doesn't mean I'm not her friend. That just means, like you said, I'm like,
you move different.
We're navigating. Whereas I have some friends that they never ask for a discount. They always go to the website and they'll pay for shipping on top of it, even though it's free shipping. Because they're like, hey man, I get it. You need the support. I love your product. I'm going to buy it. And I've implemented that now. I'm just like, hey man, you can wait until we have a sale. But the number one thing I say is I'm sorry, we just don't have the inventory, which isn't a lie. We really don't have a lot of extra, but unless you've done me a solid, if you model for me, you get a set. If we're doing something, we're working together, you get a set. I have that allocated. I'm done just giving it out to those people because they're not your fucking friends. The friends that you have are the ones that really want to watch you succeed and are going to aid in that. Yes. And it doesn't always have to be fiscal. I have friends that are like, hey, I'll model for you, or I'll help you with an email, or hey, do you need me to take a look at this? They might not have the money
even to sharing buy. Something on social media. That's free promo. I try to that means so much to me when people share content, and I try to do that as much as I possibly can for people I'm following, because for small businesses, that is key. Do you know how expensive marketing is? Do you have any idea how expensive marketing is? That's the biggest part of a business's budget.
It drives me insane, some of these influencer friends that I have, where I'm like, really, bitch? Really? You won't even fucking do a story? Like, you have 500,000 followers and a blue check mark. And I'm like, is a story really gonna, what is that doing for you? You know, it takes you 10 seconds to do it. We all know how this works. And that's when you just realize you're like, you know what? That's cool. Again, I'm just going to distance a little bit. But the impact that it has in a small business, like I literally, spoiler alert, like here's my shipping station. Here's all my stuff. Like for people that don't understand what it means to be a small business, like it's a small business. Like I have hands on everything. I still handwrite my thank you cards because I want to be part of this brand and I really want to give something back. So I think it's like, tap into your network, create your network, but don't force creating a network. I have a friend that does that. He'll go to networking events to meet people. And I'm like, don't force this shit, dude.
No.
Like, be authentic about it. But
they
can smell it. They can smell when you're like, nah, this guy's inauthentic. You know who I'm talking about. She hates it. She doesn't like it. But because, you know, Helen, mom has so many nuggets and she didn't really get to give a lot of her nugget advice. But
well, I think the greatest spirit. No, I just, because I'm listening to both, you both are very, you know, intuitive about things. I believe it's very simple. I said to her, you're not a 9 to 5 person. There are some people that can work 9 to 5. They want the security, they want the comfort of that, and they're very happy, and that's fine. But Sabrina's not one of those, and that's why it never could work. She would outdo all of her bosses, and nobody likes to be outsmarted or outshined. Exactly. In other words, you shine being on top. You're the leader, the person that you do your own thing, and you can't work for someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as you know what your needs are, and not everybody can be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can be head of anything. And working for someone is just as important. But if you know where you fit, then you'll have the confidence to, because there's no other way to go there. That's why for her, I know her. She can complain all she wants, but when I tell her, get a 9 to 5, because I know that's going to get her going. That's removing the plug. That's it. Put it right back in there again. Because I know she's not going to do it.
No,
I mean, wrong with that.
I feel like we would be dangerous if we lived closer to each other. Like that's kind of.
I would love it. If you're ever out in LA, you have to tell me.
I actually have a few clients out there, so I'm out there at least twice a year. Which I'll have to hit you up now.
Yeah.
Dangerous minds.
Yeah. But dangerous in the best way possible.
Dangerous in a sexy way. Sexy way. Can people reach out to you and ask for advice?
Oh my God, please. Here's a spoiler alert. Any way you reach out to me, it's going to come to me. So if you email into the website, you DM on the Instagram, you DM me, like anybody is welcome to. I love helping people. I am more than happy. I can't give you a magic trick. I can't solve your problems for you. So let's just preface that, but please do. It's Wear Software, W-E-A-R, soft, W-E-A-R, Sabrina.Zohar, wearsoftware.com. Any email, any way that you want to reach me, please do. I absolutely love helping others because if I can give you anything that I've learned, it's kind of a win for me because other people have done that to me. It's just really the gift of, we keep on giving. Mm-hmm.
Keep on giving. Thank you so much. This is one of my favorite episodes in a really long time. And I'm not just saying that. I don't say that every episode. This was fun. And I haven't had a twofer in a while. Thank you, Helen, for popping in.
Well, no, thank you so much. Anytime.
Kelly made her debut, her podcast debut.
Woo woo. Big H. And your hair looks gorgeous. How long did it take that to grow back? They didn't have to shave your head, did they?
Well, no, but I'm going to tell you something, and most people are going to think I'm crazy. I had about maybe 10 times this amount of hair. I've lost a lot since then because what happens is one of the episodes where they did the angiogram, they had put these needles in my head because it's necessary to see how I was doing. And afterwards, when I came out, I had bled so much my hair became a block of cement.
Yeah.
And after that, I think that the scalp was traumatized. So it's like I've had a lot of hair loss, but I know that I sound like.
She had so much hair.
That's her hair, right?
That's her hair.
This is my hair, but I had much more.
She had so much hair that when she came from the airport once, they checked her hair because they thought that she was hiding something in it. They went in. She had it down to here. It was too heavy for her. She had to cut it because it was just weighing her down. But yeah, the angiogram, they put thousands of needles in her head. And so I remember my sister washing it out and it was just blood caked in through. And ever since, but yeah, no, she's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, it's whether I just take it up. What am I supposed to do? There's nothing we can do about it. But,
I mean, it looks fucking fabulous.
Yeah.
I know, and when people ask me, my sister used to say to me, "You look ridiculous. You're telling people you're losing your hair, but you have to have known me to understand what I'm saying, you know." So, in answer to
Can
your
we
question,
get a picture? Can you send in a picture of her big hair? And we'll just.
I will try. I'm sure I have something. It was insane, like to the point where I was like, I don't even know if that's legal. Like, it's ridiculous.
You could have smuggled in some major game,
Yeah, that's why they literally checked her. I remember she was like, "What is going on?" And they just put their hands in her head.
I don't know what she thought that I was hiding in there. All right.
Listen,
I can think of some stuff.
yeah, exactly. It's not their first
think of
rodeo.
some stuff. I can. Thank you, ladies. I am going to hit you up offline because you were just so awesome, and I really appreciate you. We're going to tag you and everything. Have a good night. I'm going to bed. It's 10 p.m. here.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Sweet dreams.